So another thing that parents may be dealing with when they tell their kids, no, you can't go to the pool party, is that the kids feel invincible. I think a lot of them don't think that this virus is really something that they're ever going to get.
It's important to understand that right at the same age that children become capable of understanding the consequences of their actions, that coincides with a time when they feel completely invulnerable. And so we think that they ought to be able to understand the risks and make good decisions, but it's hard for them to do that for the very reason that you just identified. The emphasis can be on, you may not be at very high risk, but you could be exposing people who do have great risk. And so you being invincible doesn't mean you can just go and do what you want, because again, the goal is, the shared goal is to keep all family members safe.
But isn't it common for teens to then respond with, but Johnny's allowed to go and Mary's parents are letting her do that?
Yes, don't always assume that it's true, right? It's not always the case that Johnny gets to do whatever Johnny wants to do. But secondly, I think it's really important to emphasize that every family has different situations. You know, there may be people at risk in your family. There may be people who are already sort of in high risk, you know, jobs like healthcare providers, and they're already taking on a lot of risk, and we don't want to expose them, you know, any more than the risk that they have to take. But also every family has different rules, and, you know, teenagers don't like that, but that's something that they just have to learn to tolerate.
Another situation that people might find themselves in is a bit of peer pressure as it relates to wearing the masks.
My friends are not wearing masks and I feel goofy being the only one. It is really, really powerful. So one thing to do is to practice, to role play how kids can respond to that. You know, I have always, as a parent, been willing to be the bad guy. And so what my kids could easily say is, if my parents found out that I was not wearing a mask, they'll never let me leave the house again. So I just have to let the parents be the bad guy. But it would be even better for the young people to learn how to stand up for themselves and just, speak their own minds. You're free to not wear a mask. I'm not going to try to pressure you to wear a mask. I have decided that it's the best thing for me to do and for my, and for my family. And I appreciate it if you don't pressure me not to wear one. But we do have to accept, just like in the old days when, before the pandemic, we let our 13-year-olds ride off on their bikes with their helmets on. A really good number of them stop as soon as they get out of your sight and they take the helmet off. And we just have to know that. We just have to know that they have their own minds. And so if you're concerned about that, then probably not letting them go to events is a better choice.
We've been talking to Dr. Margaret Sayers, who's a clinical psychologist with tons of experience working with kids, families, and you've really shared some good insights with us here on the Help and Healing Hangout.